Okay, here's another person coming along to make me feel shameful about my past as well as my current situation. And sometimes we don't know that God is using us. Now this is where the story gets juicy. Hello everyone, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Melody and I make faith-based content here on YouTube. I post new videos every single Monday and Thursday. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely be sure to subscribe. I would love to have you join the family. So in today's video, we are going to be doing a story time, but with a twist. So I first saw a video like this over on TikTok. One of my friends sent me this video and I was like, this girl is so good. She was breaking down the story of Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that whole story. And the way that she just brought the story to life, I was like, more people need to be doing this. And I just kind of made that mental note in my heart and in my spirit at the time I saw that video, and I carried along my business. Now last week when I was in my quiet time, all the videos that I do here on my channel are really a collaboration with the Lord, okay? I be going to God and I'm like, God, what do I need to say? What should I say? What should my videos be? And then he gives me inspiration from there. And so when he dropped this idea for the video in my spirit last week, I kind of wrestled with it, to be honest. I first felt like, am I the best person to be doing this? Which I feel like the story that we dive into today will I can kind of see how God is working that out through this story. But anyways, I really kind of wrestled with it, but ultimately obedience is very important and something that I prioritize in my own walk with the Lord. So here we are. So in today's video, we are going to be doing a Bible story time. Now I'm going to be breaking down a story in the Bible and really just bringing it into our day and age. And by doing so and really kind of sharing the story in layman terms, like not Bible terms, but really just kind of putting it into a modern conversation, my hope is that one, it can make these stories or this specific story from the Bible come to life. And as the story comes to life, you're able to insert yourself, like I have been, into this story. And as you're inserting yourself into the story, you then have truths that you can hold into your heart as you carry on with your day, carry on with your week, carry on with your month. And ultimately, these truths that we're able to hold on to from these Bible stories, this is what makes the Bible a living word. Everything that happened in the Bible is still applicable to our lives and our day and age right now. And I think the more that we're able to make the Bible come alive, the more that we can see that. So in today's video, we're gonna be starting off with, I think I mentioned this already, but the story of the woman at the well. So if you wanna read this section before we hop into the story so you have a little bit more context, feel free. It's going to be John chapter 4, verse 4 through verse 26. Now the breakdown of how this is gonna flow is first I'm gonna be giving you guys some context, then we're gonna dive into the story, and then at the end I'm gonna be sharing some of the nuggets of truth that I picked up from this story and things that I'm gonna be holding on into my heart that you too can hold on into your heart. Now, as all of this is happening, I also am going to be getting ready for the day. So this is gonna be a story time, get ready with me, Bible story time, Bible breakdown, Bible context, Bible truth, just all of it all wrapped up into one. And I hope you guys enjoy. So let's go ahead and hop on into it. Let's get ready for the day. This is the final look, of course. So the next clip you see will be me makeup free and starting the whole process. And we're gonna start again with some context. So let's get into it. I have my coffee of choice, so definitely be sure, grab some coffee, grab some tea, and let's get ready together and get into this story. So first and foremost, we want to start with context because I feel like any good story starts with having a bit of context. So there are 3 things you need to know. First and foremost, the first thing you need to know is Jews and Samaritans, which this is Jesus meeting a woman at the well who happens to be a Samaritan woman. Jesus and Samaritans did not get along. So much so that Jews would literally avoid routes going anywhere that had them going through the town of Samaria. Like they wanted to avoid the Samaritans that bad that they would go on longer routes to get wherever they were going to literally avoid this city full of Samaritans. The second thing you need to know is Jesus wasn't like typical Jews. So while typical Jews would try to avoid the Samaritans at all costs, Jesus and his disciples were traveling from Judea to Galilee. And the route that they did was specifically going through the town of Samaria. So Jesus already is breaking these societal norms, going a path that typically Jews would never go. Now, the third, and dare I say the most important piece of context here, is that the woman that he meets at the well, she is an outcast of her society. Now, the reason she's an outcast, Jesus gets into that in the story, which we can go ahead and kind of talk about it now. But the reason that she's an outcast is women do not want to be around her because she's been married quite a few times. Jesus breaks down the specific number, so I'll let him kind of share that information when we get into the story time. But she's been married quite a few times, and the reason that she comes to this well alone, and the reason that she comes to this well in the middle of the day, is so that she avoids the shame that she normally feels when she is around a lot of people. And so a lot of people would come to the well generally at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. And so she tries to avoid shame altogether and avoid basically just being around people who are judging her by coming to the well when no one is there, which is the heat of the day, the middle of the day. And that is where she runs into Jesus sitting at the well all alone. So that kind of sets the scene, and now let's get into part 2, which is the story time. Really breaking down this interaction that this woman at the well, a Samaritan woman, had with Jesus. So the story is going to be picking up at John chapter 4, verse 4 through 26. So let's get into it. Now, Jesus is sitting at a well. His disciples have all gone into the town to get food, and he is sitting there all alone. No bucket, no cup, nothing, just hanging out. Now, of course, because this is Jesus, this is all a part of his divine plan. But by just the naked eye, anyone seeing this Jewish man sitting at a well, they would just be like, okay, wait, what? Like, what are you doing at this well? You have nothing to get water from the well. What are you doing? So it's noon, and a Samaritan woman walks up. As she is going about her business, which she does this all the time. She comes to the well in the middle of the day. It's the hottest point of the day. I am imagining her just trying to get in, get out. It is not fun to get water in the burning heat in the middle of the day. And, you know, she's opening herself up to criticism from anyone that she does run into because she is an outcasted person of her society. So she is going about her business, and as she is going about her business, Jesus asks her for a cup of water. And now the first thing that she says back to Jesus is, I'm a Samaritan woman, you are a Jewish man, why are you talking to me, and why are you asking me for a cup of water? Now, Jesus being Jesus responds back to her and says, if you only knew that I am coming to bring the living water, you would be wanting a cup of water from me. So then she looks over at him and she sees him, no cup, no bucket, nothing to get water from this well. And she's like, well, if you have living water, where's your cup? Where's your bucket? Make it make sense. So Jesus replies that anyone who drinks from my water, this living water, will never be thirsty again, and they will have eternal life. And so to that, she's like, well, I'd like a cup. I would love to never be thirsty again and have to come to this well. So let me get some of this living water. So this is where the story starts to get juicy. So after the woman requests this living water that Jesus is offering, he says, come back and bring your husband. And to that, the woman replies honestly. She says, I have no husband. And he says, you know what? You're right. You don't have a husband. You've had 5. And the man that you're currently living with is not your husband. Clutch your pearls. And so to this, the woman is like, oh, wow. Okay, here's another person coming along to make me feel shameful about my past as well as my current situation. So at this point, she then says, oh, you must be a prophet. And so something to note here is throughout this story, Jesus has first revealed himself as the living water. Now he's revealing himself as a prophet. And then as we continue throughout the story, he eventually is going to reveal himself for the first time publicly as the Messiah to this Samaritan woman. So after Jesus tells her all about her life, she's like, okay, clearly you're a prophet. I see you're here to make me remind me of my past, of my shame. Okay, cool. She then goes on to say that the mountain that they're currently on, their ancestors, Jacob, worshipped on it. But she acknowledges that the Jews say that they shouldn't worship here on this mountain. They need to go to Jerusalem to worship. But they actually bar and ban the Samaritans from getting into Jerusalem to worship. And so Jesus goes on to give this really famous quote, which I'm sure we all know, about worshiping in spirit and in truth. And so he's explaining to this woman that, yes, these are the rules that are current, where you're supposed to go to Jerusalem and that is where you're supposed to worship. But eventually a time is going to come where it doesn't matter where you worship. It just matters that you worship in spirit and in truth. So that means that your heart is pure for the Lord. It doesn't matter the location that you're worshiping. And he's sharing that there is this, Messiah that's going to be coming and that is going to make this shift. And then the woman at the well responds and she says something really pivotal. She says, yes, I know that a Messiah is supposed to come, Jesus Christ. And when he does, he's going to make everything known to us. And this is when Jesus reveals himself again for the first time to anyone publicly that he is the Messiah. And so here is this woman, by all standards and all definitions in her society, an outcast, unworthy, full of shame. No one wants to be in her presence. Yet Jesus chose her. He specifically sought out to speak with this woman. He divinely had an appointment with this woman. And so once he shares that she is the Messiah, she realizes that she is in the presence of the Messiah. And her spirit lights up. Her soul is on fire. And she realizes that she has had an encounter with the one and true living God. So here is where the story kind of ends. The disciples are now walking up. This woman has been informed by Jesus himself that he is Jesus. And she is on fire, okay? Like, when you come to have this realization about God or just this encounter with him and you just cannot contain it, you have to tell everyone and share that joy with them. That is how she walked away from the situation. And she likely didn't even walk away. She was like running into the town. She passed by the disciples as they were coming back to meet Jesus. And she says, I met a man who told me everything about myself. He is the Messiah. And so as she goes back into her town, Samaria, she shares this news with everyone, okay? Every person that she comes into contact with, she shares this news unashamed. She is the person that Christ chose. And I feel like that is the most beautiful part about it, is a person by all counts in her society, someone that everyone would say, no, you can't be used by God. Your story, your past is too far away from Christ. Your past is too far down the drain, yet God chose her. And I feel like that is just, it just speaks to the type of God that we serve. And so I want to just go a little bit further into John and just share the impact that this specific Samaritan woman made in Jesus's ministry. So again, she ran from this conversation telling everyone that she came into contact with that she met a man who knew everything about her life, Jesus Christ, and that he is the Messiah and that he is here. And because of this woman, we'll go ahead and pop this verse up on the screen because I really want us to just read it together and let it sink into our hearts. And so this is going to be John chapter 4 verse 39, and it says, many of the Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did. That is the story. Now let's go ahead and hop into part 3, where we just pull away 2 little nuggets or gems that we can hold in our hearts and really let them sink into our spirits, and that can allow us to really insert ourselves into this story and apply it to where we are today, right now. So let's get into part 3. So the first truth here that we can allow to sink into our hearts and our spirits is the fact that Jesus, first and foremost, is not fazed by our sin. Sometimes we think that we got to clean ourselves up before we can come and approach the Lord. But this story shows that not only is that not the case, but Jesus approaches those who are full of sin, people who might even still be living in sin. Like this woman, she was living with her boyfriend essentially, yet still that didn't keep him from approaching her. Not only did that not keep him from approaching her, but that did not keep Jesus from using her as well. And that's the second point I think that we can hold on to, is that Jesus can use all of us wherever we are in our lives, in our walks, whatever we have going on. We can be used by the Lord. And I think it all comes down to our willingness to be used by God. And sometimes we don't know that God is using us, right? Like God specifically sought out this woman, and when they began their conversation, I doubt she had any idea that 20, 30, 40 minutes from this conversation, she'd be running into the city, sharing her testimony, and ultimately bringing so many Samaritans to Christ. She probably had no idea that that was going to happen that day when she woke up, but she was open to being used. She was open to the conversation. She was open to sharing her heart and her truth. And I think that openness is also a beautiful aspect of it all. Because had she been like, yeah, no, I'm a Samaritan, you're a Jew, we don't talk, I'm not going to engage in this conversation, then we would not have this story in the Bible, and we would not have this impact that this one specific woman made. Now, the second thing that I think is really important here, maybe this would be the third thing, I'm not really sure, but the next thing, we can go ahead and say that. The next thing that I think is really important here is the fact that Jesus shares that he is the living water. And I think this is something that we can keep in the forefront of our mind and is so applicable to this day and age that we live, because there are so many things vying for our hearts and our attention in our society, things that we think are going to satisfy us. And just like Jesus shared to this woman, if you drink my living water, you'll never be thirsty again. That same thing applies to our life and what we're going through right now. Sometimes we think, oh, if we get in a relationship, then, you know, the satisfaction that we're searching for, it'll be found then. Or if we get this job, or if we get a certain amount of money, or if we have a child, or, you know, if there's certain restorations or redemption stories that happen within our families, or we just think that we're going to find fulfillment in situations outside of Christ, in circumstances that don't have the foundation and the, you know, the sole origin of Jesus. But Jesus shared to this woman, and this is still applicable to us today, he alone is the living water. He alone is the only thing that will quench our thirst. And that is something, I think, the more that we marinate on that, the more that we keep that at the forefront of our minds, the more it will keep us from jumping around and chasing the wind, essentially. Because, girl, we gotta stop chasing the wind, okay? We gotta stop thinking that what we're truly searching for and something that is going to quench our genuine thirst of our soul can be found in anything outside of Jesus. It might temporarily satisfy us, but at the end of the day, a week, 2 months, a few years, it will stop working. And Jesus is going to be the only thing that will continuously and forever quench the thirst of our souls. Because inside of all of us, there is a God void. A void that only God can fill. And that is by design, to draw us close to him. So that is the second or the third point that I think we can hold on to here. Now let me go ahead and finish up this phase, and we'll go ahead and close this out. All right, so this is the finished phase. Like I mentioned, I will have everything that I use down in the description box. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video and potentially the new series. If you did, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And now, of course, it is your turn. So in the comments below, I would love to know 2 things. First and foremost, what do we think about this video and this potential new series? Should we keep going? Should we edit? Should we kind of do another little twist on it? What do you think? And like I mentioned at the beginning, this is one of those video concepts that God kind of just boop, dropped in my spirit, so I'm excited to get your guys' feedback. Now the second part that I have for you, if you do want to continue on, let me know in the comments what story we should tackle next. I have a few ideas and I'm gonna drop those in the comments, so definitely be sure to take a scroll through, but I'd love to know what you guys are thinking too. As always, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Peace.